Welcome to the big show, everybody. We are live. This is my radio voice, as you can tell. Ta-da! Hello, I am Justin, and I am part of KP and Associates. And every Thursday, as you know, we do a bit of a Q&A with people from the community, business owners, professionals in our industry as well. And this week, we have some pretty special guests. I'm pretty excited about this one because we have a personal kind of connection to it in a big way. And so I'll just jump right into it and introduce Ann Smith and JJ Moore to the program. Let's start with you, JJ. JJ is the owner, founder, operator of JJ's Dance Arts in Burlington. If you're in the dance community, you probably know the name. And our daughter was lucky enough to be chosen to allow to go to JJ's Dance Arts, so we've been able to be there for this season 7. Um, I think JJ, what I'd like to start with from your perspective, is why the heck are you doing this? Why did you decide to take on opening a dance studio knowing your history? Because let's talk a little bit about where you've come from and bring that together with how the dance studio kind of rolls that dream together.
Okay.
Is that too deep? I don't know.
No, this is great. This is a great question. I have to stay focused so I don't go off on a tangent.
I love it.
Where it comes from is so I am a choreographer in TV and film and motion capture. So, I have a wide variety of experience. The last 5 years, I've been the movement director for Ubisoft's Avatar game. I've produced, choreographed 60 episodes of a dance show called Backstage for Disney and Family Channel. So I've been a part of this industry for 20 plus years.
Kind of a mic drop on that. No problem. No big deal. Like I worked on the Avatar video game, a multi-billion-dollar franchise. That's no problem. No big deal.
I am the Navi Bible. I just want to tell you that.
I love it.
um, but yeah, so that's been my career. I was a commercial dancer for like I say 18 to 28, and then 28 to 38 has been just behind the camera, where I've been in more of like a creative leadership position. And I had many years in a row where all of the jobs I was hiring minors. And that gave me the opportunity to, chat with their parents and understand sort of like what their training was looking like. And then also just like the negotiation of having to unfortunately like turn down a job because their studios, which were like phenomenally like high caliber training studios, but weren't supportive of allowing people to miss a competition, big
Mm.
competitions, traveling competitions, like stuff like that, to have them actually like be on set and build their resume. So
Let me
there
just
was,
point out though, on that note, because that's the point of dance in a way. If you're going to do something in this industry, the point of it in my head would be to leverage it into something like that, right? If you love it
yeah,
enough, right?
yeah, I think that like there's a lot of different streams that this can go. And the main one that kids are most excited about is performing,
Right.
right? So when they are training, I really think it's just a phenomenal reflection on the people coaching them if they're invited into a professional environment. Um, that's how I've looked at it. Not everyone looks at it that way. And yes, I agree. Like that is the goal, like of your training, you're doing comps, you're doing recitals. So hopefully your performance skills are going to be something that would be marketable in an audition setting,
Right.
to potentially get paid for such skill. Not that kids are focused on a paycheck, but to be in a professional environment is like so inspiring for them. And then it's this extra like fuel for them to train and work really hard when they get a taste of what it's like to be treated like what they are doing is, worthy of being in an adult professional environment.
Sure.
Um,
So we had a conversation with someone we know recently, and I brought this up to you earlier today just so I could
oh
preface and
yeah.
allow you to. And the conversation kind of went along the lines of like, you know, some of the least opportunities. Why would you put your kid in dance? It's stupid.
Yeah.
There's no future in that. My argument a little bit is, um, the idea of the percentages of people that make it in
Mm,
any athletic endeavor, quite frankly, are incredibly low to begin with. So,
yeah,
so people that get scholarships, there's a percentage. People that take those scholarships, if you look at any football team, like college football in the US, there's hundreds and hundreds of players on every team.
yeah,
90 players on every team. Like one of each team might make it beyond that.
right, right.
So, give me a little framework of like completely understanding that probably 90 to 98% of the kids that come through any studio in Ontario or anywhere in the world
Yeah,
may not do anything with it down the road or
yeah,
in their adult life.
yeah.
What are the opportunities going forward? You mentioned a couple things. Like, tell me how your path went
Oh, yeah,
as going from like a teenager into, you mentioned 18 to 20 something.
yeah.
What's that path like? And what is the path like now?
Okay.
Right?
Well, I was funny enough, and a lot of people don't know this, I was a Highland dancer and I was
Oh,
a Highland and like ballet. And all the other genres are more were more just for fun, but that was the thing that I actually did really seriously all the way to grade 9, and then I focused on grade 10, 11, 12 in like a highly competitive comp studio environment. I'm I went to, which is now TMU, the Ryerson Performance Degree Program, and from there, gosh, I hope Vicky St. Denis, I love her so much. She's like running the program now. She was my jazz teacher then, and the thing that I did is I auditioned while I was in school, which wasn't something we were supposed to do, but I always encourage kids like network and get out there. So I was, I wanted to make sure that like I was, even if I was the sign-in girl for a casting, and this is the thing that I like really try to coach my kids in it. If this is where you want to be, then you travel for an hour and a half to be the sign-in person for this casting director, because you have to start showing that you are a part of this world. And I think that my it's funny, I taught at Kothra this past week, which I can speak about later when we talk about the show. But the teacher's like, how did you get to where you are? Like, can you tell the kids how to follow this path? And I was like, I don't think anyone's path is something you can replicate. But what I can say is, I say this to my students all the time, is like, you want to have the energy of like, let's get in the sandbox. Like, I need you to have collaborative energy. So the person that is going to hire you feels like you are a safe personality to experiment with creatively. And that makes somebody like, that's how I hire people. I would much rather hire someone with less experience, but more collaborative energy to show that I am game to experiment with you. And I'm going to be like a yes person, and it'll be a nice environment. And then I also know, like, professionally speaking, that when I walk away, they're going to be consistent, and you can tell that type of personality. So that's
mm.
like something that I coach my kids
That
in. But
correlates
yeah,
throughout all sport, all kind of almost anywhere, quite frankly.
yeah,
Like, who wants
yeah.
to hire someone that's going to be a pain in the ass all the
Yeah, and unfortunately, like I feel like that's not talked about enough, like
time?
how to be in a room, and like body language, and like, when to ask a question, and like do use your voice. Like one thing I that drives me nuts, but this is my first tangent of the whole interview. PS,
Let's
I've
do it.
been doing okay. But a lot of kids are taught like, you do not speak in dance class. You do not speak. And then suddenly you have a bunch of 16-year-olds, and I'm like, okay, is everyone good? And it's like, and and you're like, okay, so we need to make sure that like we are using our voices to make sure, because if I'm at an audition, I'm like, okay, everyone good, and everyone is like mute, I'm like, oh god, this is going to be like, we need to make sure that people are like yes, or people say no, because you're valued the same. If you say no, you can be like, no, I actually need to review it again. Perfect. Like, just like that sort of like professional honesty, so we can actually have some momentum together. So these are like sort of qualities that I feel like perhaps I learned from also my dance teacher. Ellen Ermish was a big influence on me, and she sadly passed. And she was a professional dancer, and
You know
and
what's funny is I know I sold her house.
Oh, the Irmishes.
Yep.
That's
Ian,
wild.
Ian is a client of ours, her brother,
Yeah, the
who has
Tartan
that
Terrors
band.
then. You would know
Tartan
them.
Terrors, the Tartan
I
Terrors.
was the kid in their show. There was like two
No,
kids in their very adult, inappropriate show, and I still can't believe my parents let me do it because it was like the jokes kind of like went over my head. But
that's
yeah,
so
I was
funny.
like, yeah, I was in their show when I was like 10, 11, 12, 13. Anyways,
So
but
Ellen had a dance studio in her house up on Britannia
yeah, her
Road, I think it
mom's
was.
Sue Irmish. They were like
Yeah.
Highland. Yeah,
Yeah. And so we went after she passed, Ian came to me and we sold the house, and it was an incredibly emotional journey for them. She was
yeah,
like, I didn't know her because I never
yeah,
met her, but she
yeah.
was clearly a very inspiring woman. So
Yeah, she was like human sunshine. She was like
kind of like you,
she was the
let's be
reason I
honest.
wanted to be a dance teacher. Like I just loved her. But yeah, so to get back to the process of how I did this is the truth is I was going to auditions while I was in my degree, and one of the auditions that I landed was a Playtex commercial, and I was literally no joke like a dancing tampon. And Amy Wright, who is the producer and choreographer of The Next Step, she was the choreographer of that. She was pregnant at the time, and now her son is 18. And basically, like I I knew I wanted to choreograph since I was like 9. So like to be in a room with a choreographer that's actually doing it, I was like, I'm fairly certain that I reached out to Amy at 18 years old and said, if I can ever shadow you, if you ever need a sign in person. And that was the beginning of a relationship. So as I was working and auditioning and dancing in commercials, TV shows, MMVAs, music videos, and all of that, I was also assisting her. So before the next step even became a real thing, I was her associate. So she trusted me enough and trained me for enough years that when I was on, she was on one set, I was on another set running it. And that was how we worked. And then I was so fortunate. And this is where there's a certain amount of patience, and you have to love the process of just like what you're doing, like step, B to get to step C. Like I think there's this idea that things should come quickly, and I tell everybody like you pursue dance if you like the process, because nothing's going to come overnight and it's just like never ending. Like there's always going to be something more to like learn and lean into. So
So then that circles back to when people ask me, why do you put your kids in these things? Why do you put your kids in dance or hockey and like high level all this stuff?
yeah.
And I answer with, because it teaches them so much,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like to
Oh
your
yeah.
point of just then of saying like it's a process. Life is a process. Something that was told to me recently, which actually is really poignant with regards to this whole conversation as we go forward. But
Mm-hmm.
I was going through some struggles, and I said, I can see the top of the mountain, but I just don't know how I'm going to get there. And the person I was talking to looked me in the face and said, the lie that you're telling yourself is that there is a top to this mountain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the rocks that you're carrying in that backpack, you don't have to carry those anymore. You can put
Yeah.
those down or give them to other people to help you with.
Yeah.
So, genuinely speaking, everything is a journey. Life is a journey.
Yeah.
Nothing, yeah, there's moments that are easy and things like that. But
Yeah.
anybody that wants anything of importance in this world
Yeah.
has to work for it some way or another, or
Oh,
want
and
it at least.
yes, and this is the thing, if you don't work for it, there's no satisfaction. So
No.
yeah,
Yes,
like
I agree.
yeah. So this is the thing. I really feel like the moment that oh, Mama's here too. Um,
Yeah. Hey, she's in the Bahamas apparently. I don't know what's going on. We're
I
adding
love
people
it.
as we
I
go.
love it. But yeah, like the idea of yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought
That's
because I
okay.
just got so excited about your mom.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So let's one quick question, and like let's call it a quick little answer because I want to get this out to sort of promote you a little bit. And this maybe I'll try to keep you short. Why is JJ's different?
Oh gosh. Um,
Give me your elevator pitch.
oh, I know what I was gonna say. I was gonna
Yes,
say, sorry, I got it back. I
I
got it
love
back.
it.
Okay, I got it back. And what I was gonna say is that when the next step was moving into season 3, I got a phone call from a gentleman and said, I'm about to have a show greenlit with Disney Family Channel. And for some reason, they're saying you have to be the department head. It's part of the contract. And I'm like 27 at the time. And he was like, so I'm pretty sure we should have a coffee because I have no idea who you are. Fair enough. I don't really have much under my name at the moment. Meet him for a coffee. And he has become one of my favorite mentors. Um, Brian Irving basically was like a rock behind me and trusted every instinct I had for 60 episodes of his show. So, anyways, and that was sort of the beginning of me working and getting more and more trust from different producers and line producers and whatnot. So that was the answer to that. So that's how
So,
like the
so the
whole thing goes.
summary of that is hard work. You got to want it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And relentlessness, like to keep going and keep pushing, even though you might see dark moments where you don't know what's next.
Yeah.
Keep going ahead, right?
Yeah. And also the
And
lesson is
networking.
like when I look at an episode that I choreographed, it does not bring me the same joy as the preparation for it and the shooting of it. Like I'm so aware now that like the thing that I value is like the process and the big like exciting moment that feels like it should be the celebration. It feels like 5% of it to me, and most of the pride and the joy and the excitement is the process. And I feel like that might be true for more people than me, but everyone needs to like have these big goals attained a few times to realize that that doesn't really feel like the mountaintop we think it's going to be.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And JJ's is different in my mind, and I'll give you my 2 cents because I feel like a lot of the other dance places heavily focus on competitions,
Yeah.
but they do not focus on the theory behind dance and what it means to actually have a career if you decide to do that in
Yeah.
dance and actually preparing these girls and boys for
Yeah.
the reality of the future of dance.
Yeah.
I found that a lot of people going through other studios that we've been at, when you watch the older girls, they just stop one day.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that there's like training or some sort of mentorship to say, well, there's this beyond this.
Yeah.
Right. And whereas I feel like within the JJ's framework and family, and I call it family because it really does feel intimate and like together that way. Within that family, you feel like there's support to be able to go, well, you can explore your vision for what you want as
Yeah.
an artist and as a dancer, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
how I feel about it. That's my testimonial for it. And I'll
Thank
cut
you.
you off because you talk too much. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
know. I'm very
We want to
sorry.
bring it all together as to why
No,
Ann and JJ are in the same room here. Okay. So here's
yeah.
what we're gonna do. I'm gonna throw to Ann and I'm gonna say, Ann, first of all, Ann, welcome. I appreciate you being on the call. It just occurred to me while I was sitting here looking at the name below your face there, Lighthouse for Grieving Children, how important and how relevant that name is because it really didn't sink into me the and we'll talk about what it is in a second, but having the I can't imagine what it feels like to be in their shoes when they've lost a loved one and they can't see anything else around them. And then that lighthouse pops up and guides them through the storm that they're going through. It just that was a mind-blowing moment for me 2 seconds ago while I was listening to JJ talk. So let's talk about what is Lighthouse and let everybody
Well,
know.
and you're right, because Lighthouse, we talk about Lighthouse as being a beacon of hope. And it was actually one of our founders, Joe Fallon's son, when she founded Lighthouse 25 years ago, her son was quite young at the time, and they were trying to think of a name. And he said, why don't we call it Lighthouse? Because it is that beacon of hope. So people can
Yes.
come there and get that support that they need. So what we offer is free grief support for children, teens, and young adults whose parent or sibling has died. So that ranges from the age of 3 right up to 24. And in addition to the groups that we have for these kids and young adults, parents can also access a group because we know that as a parent, you need that support too. Because when you've had a death in your family, the first thing as a parent that you're thinking about is how can I support my kids? So if
Mhm.
you've lost your partner or you've lost a child, it's how can I support those remaining kids? And then you're not thinking about yourself,
Mhm.
but the parents need the support too. So our groups are peer to peer. So we don't offer one-to-one counseling, it's peer to peer. So it's kids coming together with other kids who understand what they're going through. You know, you can have the most best friend in the entire world, but unless they've had a parent or a sibling die, they don't get you. They don't understand what you're going through. So this is a safe space where kids can go and there's no judgment here. This is like Vegas in terms of, what happens in Lighthouse stays in Lighthouse. This for teens is not an opportunity to take a selfie and text what somebody said in group. This is a really safe space. So this is a place where kids can do lots of crying. Yes, there's a lot of tears here, but there's a lot of laughter too. And I think that that's what people say, how can you work there? Like, isn't it really doom and gloom? And I'm like, actually, when I come in here every day, it's very light. It's a beautiful space and it's hopeful. And yes, we are the community that people don't really want to belong to. But when you've had a death in your family, this is the best community to be with because
One of
then
the
people support you.
one of the things you mentioned to us during the tour was that there's not many of this type of thing across
No,
Canada. Talk to me
no.
about that because and why.
Yeah, there's so our program is based on the Dougie Center in Portland, Oregon, and there is the Lighthouse, and then there is Season Center in Barrie. So we
Mm,
have the exact same program. And then there's Lumera in Vancouver, and there's other grief supports out there that they're offering like 4, 6, 8 week groups, but ours are open-ended. So they're free and families can come here for as long as they need the support.
mhm,
And on average, our families come here for 14 months. So you can see that, yes, it's great to have those 4 and 8 week programs because something is certainly better than nothing.
mhm,
So, but if on average our families are coming for 14 months, in 4 weeks, you're just starting to tap into your grief. And if
mhm,
you're a child, you might only be starting to talk about it. And then those 4 weeks are up, and you're not with that same group again because maybe another group starts up in another month from now, but it might be a different group of kids. So here they're always with the same group so that they can lean on each other. They build that community within that one little group,
they
which is
feel safe
amazing to
together.
see.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
That's really cool. Talk to me about some of the actual sort of activities that you do at Lighthouse because I know when we did the tour, you showed us a couple things, and I don't know how many times I was standing in the corner like
Oh, absolutely.
because it's just so heavy and emotional because it's and not necessarily in a I don't want to call it a sad way. It's like it's almost a wonderful way because you're tapping into the things that we don't see.
Yeah,
I did a post the other day to kind of help promote this event, and I sort of mentioned the idea that like kids carry the weight of their schoolwork, the weight of their dance, the weight of their sports, and the weight of our expectations on them because
for sure.
and now something happens that's you know unfathomable, and they have to carry that weight and they have no outlet. And so here we are, Lighthouse. What are some of the things that you kind of do with them in the center there?
Yeah, because even when you think of, so our youngest group are tiny tots. So those are 3 to 6 year olds. And a lot of people, first of all, we're the only center that offers any support for that age group. You won't find that anywhere else. Even the Season Center up in Barrie does not offer support for that young of age.
Right.
Um, and people think, do they really get it? Do they really understand the permanence of death? And we do a lot of arts and crafts.
Mm.
And there was this lovely picture that this little girl had painted. And it was her, a little stick figure, and then her dad, another little stick figure, and he was on the other side of a bridge. And they had a little green string that went from her to him. And as she's coloring this, one of our facilitators, who's amazing with the kids, I have to say, I have amazing staff here. And because
Mhm.
they carry the heavy load, I'm more of an administrator. But she said, "Oh, so what are you coloring?" And she said, "This is a string from me to my dad. And my dad's on the other side of the bridge, and I don't think he's going to be able to cross the bridge." So she gets it. And this is 3 to 6 year olds. She understands that no, he's not going to be coming back, that death is permanent. So with our younger kids, we do a lot of play. So it's like play therapy. We have a hospital room at Lighthouse because we understand that the majority of our families that come to us, they've lost their special person due to an illness. And so by being in that hospital room, they can play with stuffed animals in there. And maybe that stuffed animal has a different outcome than their parent did or their sibling did. And it takes that fear away as well, because maybe the hospital was the last place that they saw their mom. And so now there's that stigma and that fear of going back to a hospital. So that takes by playing with the instruments, and this is all real equipment from the old Oakville Hospital.
Mm,
So by playing with it, they can take that fear away.
mm.
We have a volcano room, which is all padded, and
The
kids
rage
can
room.
oh, it's amazing. And they can erupt in there. They
Yeah.
can punch the punching bag, throw the stuffed animals around, and just let out all those really big emotions that they have.
And I think the idea is the emotion that they're feeling is perfectly healthy,
Absolutely. That's why we
right?
say, even with laughter here, because for kids are often afraid to go to laugh at home because they don't
Mm,
want to upset their mom or their dad. And, a prime example of that is there was a teenage girl and she's standing by her locker in high school and she had lost her mom and she's talking to her friend and they were laughing about something. And another teenager walked by and said, "How can you be laughing? Your mom died."
mm,
It's like, is she never going to laugh again? Is she not going to allow it to have that emotion? Like, you go through grief like you
mm,
jump in puddles. Like 1 minute, kids can be fine. 2 minutes later, they could be in tears.
mm.
So it is that puddle jumping that we talk about. And it's okay to go through all those emotions because you're never going to be the same, but you're going to have a new normal in your life,
Mhm.
right? You're never going to be the same person you were when that death happened.
And not to mention, I think the idea that the loved one that we've lost that is now passed is probably not, you wouldn't expect, someone's mother or brother or something to go, I want you to be in this horrible place forever.
Exactly.
They're on the other side going, I want you to live your life and have fun and
Yes.
learn from what we've been through here. Right.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
interesting. So let's bring it all together. JJ and Ann are here because there is a wonderful performance, which I went to 2 years ago. I have great friends, the Arringtons, that were a part of JJ's dance studio a while back now, who incidentally have gone on to have incredibly wonderful dance careers on their own. The
Um,
daughters are incredible humans, and the family is amazing. I don't know why that makes me teary because they're just awesome people and it makes me think wonderful things. Anyway, so and I just, reminiscing in my mind about the performance I saw 2 years ago. This thing's called Light Heavy Light, and it is probably one of the most moving performances I've seen from teenagers effectively and younger children. They're not teenagers that I've ever seen. And the fact that this is, I'm just blown away by it is really when I think back, and I'm super excited to be there this week or next week when we host this or when you guys host this. But talk to me about a little bit, let's start with JJ, what it is, where it came from, the background of it. We're going to go a little over time today just because, we've had such a great conversation. So let's not look at the clock too much.
okay.
Talk to me about what it is, what the inspiration was, and how this works.
Of course. And thank you so much for this. This is really special to combine these two stories. So I've always wanted to create an original dance show that would be in partnership with a charity. I've always loved the idea of like remounting something that people could see over and over again, and maybe it would land differently or it would be like this like beautiful reminder. And I was probably 8 years ago listening to a podcast, and this is where my creative brain goes. And I was listening to it, but I was imagining the podcast in movement. And then I was like, oh, I think this should be a dance show. And that just kind of like lingered in the back of my mind. Um, the following year, I opened JJ Dance Arts, and I was like, why not? This will be it. It just so happened that a friend, Colleen, introduced me to the Lighthouse for Grieving Children 7 years ago. And I was asking her, I'm like, any suggestions of a local charity that I could, all ticket sales and proceeds would go towards this local charity. So it's like the most, I don't know, magical sort of happening because the theme of the show couldn't align more with what the Lighthouse for Grieving Children does for our community. And it's November is Children's Grief Awareness Month. So what you have are these high caliber dancers storytelling on stage, exploring themes of sort of judgment, acceptance, compassion, grief, loneliness, joy, like this whole spectrum of a process. And they're performing it, and the money raised from this show will go directly to children dealing with acceptance and compassion and grief and loneliness. So there's like this perfect full circle relationship between this show, this dance show, and the Lighthouse for Grieving Children. And I'm like, it's one of the things that I'm most proud of, to be connected to, Anne and her team and the charity in this way. And yeah, it's and the inspiration, Rob Bell. So the Robcast, he's an author. He lives in LA. I would love for him to come see the show. So Rob, if you see this, please answer one of my emails. But basically, yeah, it was one of his early podcast episodes, and here we are 7 years later, and on November 24th, we're about to remount our 7th version of the show. And for anyone out there that doesn't know what that means, the Nutcracker is remounted every 12 months all over the world. So I wanted to create a show that would make sense to be remounted, and it being presented in November, with November being Children's Grief Awareness Month associated with the Lighthouse. It's just this like package for everybody to experience.
And so one of the things you mentioned before, prior to, in one of the meetings we've had before, was that the Lighthouse doesn't have an income stream. They rely solely on donation to get money to support the programs.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to have JJ and the dance studio supporting in this way? And what kind of support have they given? Like, what kind of numbers are we talking from JJ so far? Because
I think
sounds pretty awesome.
Last year alone, I think it was like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was about $25,000. So that's a lot of money for a small charity like ours. We only have 6 full-time employees. We're very small, but we served over 380 people last year.
Wow.
And we don't get any government funding. So we have to rely on the generosity of the community to be able to keep our programming free. So it's huge. And it's not, the money is amazing, and we very much appreciate that, but it's also the awareness piece. Because our mission is to help as many grieving children as we possibly can. And we have a minute marketing budget. So it's getting that messaging out to people so that they know about us, so then they can access our services.
That's incredible. So from the standpoint of the synchronicity of the show, I mean, do you ever have members of the Lighthouse that have gone to see the show and sort of connected with it that way?
Yeah. We've had families go to the show, and they're incredibly moved. And as you said, when you saw it, you were very moved. The first time I saw it, it's a 3-act part. So a 3-act performance. And after the first act, I came out and I'm like, okay, dry my tears, because I have to go stand at the Lighthouse table and talk to people now.
Well,
and then I thought, okay, I'm going to be good for the second. And then the second act, the same thing happened. I'm like, okay, stop crying, because you got to go stand out there again. I was so blown away by this performance. The emotion that comes out of these dancers it blows me away.
And I want to remind everybody, these are not professional dancers.
They're amazing
kids, teenagers, and children that are just so passionate about this performance and this dance. And let's full disclosure, my daughter's in it this year. She's somewhere in the back there doing her thing. And she's been doing little dances around the house. And the first time she came home with one of the songs and said, "This is the song I'll be dancing in," and this, that, and the other, she actually told us, "This is where I'm supposed to be."
They're so talented, though. I mean, yes, they're young kids and teens, but they are so talented.
Yes, and it's incredible to see how JJ brings that out of these kids.
Yes.
And the choreography is incredible. The storytelling. I've often said, like, I'm a sports guy. I don't know how to dance. Like, I'm like Elaine, or Trump, let's say. I do the Trump, and so that's me. I judge dance by how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And yes, there's dances that make you feel wonderful and happy and whatever. And in the end, this does that too. But this takes you through this range of emotion that just is so all over the place. And again, I'll just reiterate, these are teenagers and children doing this dance for you. And you're just
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
it's
I was
so much fun.
incredibly
So let's
lucky.
talk about when it is and the performances and
Yeah.
how we can get tickets.
Yes, of course. So the performance will take place at the Burlington Performing Arts Center, downtown Burlington. Super beautiful theater. There are three performances. So November 24th, that is a 7 p.m. show. And then we have a matinee on the 25th of November, and that's 11 a.m. And we have lots of schools coming. So there's a load of art schools coming that have dance programs. And as a part of a gesture of like excitement that they're coming, I've been teaching excerpts of the choreography in workshops at the schools. So they'll be able to like come in and see something that they've seen.
Cool.
And this is also really important for the Lighthouse, that there's going to be a load of teenagers and students in the audience that will be aware that this support exists. And then we have a closing night on the 25th at 7 p.m. And all ticket sales go to the Lighthouse for Grieving Children. And there's still time if anybody wants to be a sponsor for the show, please reach out. You can find me on Instagram at JJ Dance Arts, and we'd love to just keep building our contribution towards supporting
Yeah,
the
if
Lighthouse.
anybody has any questions, they can actually reach out to KP and Associates or me directly through the Facebook page here. We can
Great.
connect anybody. There's also links below, some of the links below in the comment section.
Yeah.
And you can take a look at there. Um, I think one last thing I just want to ask. So if there is a family in need and they have to get in touch, or what's the best way for them to reach out to the Lighthouse?
Yeah, probably just go to our website, the Lighthouse for Grieving Children, and then give us a call, send us an email. Yeah, our main objective is to help as many kids as possible. One thing I forgot to mention too, we have in-person groups, but we also have online.
Hmm.
We don't have online for our tiny tots, the 3 to 6 year olds, because their attention span seems to be a little bit shorter than other children of different ages. But we have online for the other kids, the other groups, the teens as well. And we strictly just have online for the young adults. We don't have in person for them, the 19 to 24-year-olds. And that way,
Excellent.
there's no barrier to accessing support. Whether, it's too far to drive, they can always get online with us. And as I said, they're free. No barriers there financially.
Very cool. So there'll be plenty of opportunity. Is there any, so on the Lighthouse website, you can also do donations as well,
Oh,
I'm assuming?
absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Yeah, that'd be
And there's
great.
other events that you host throughout the year as well, as far as I
We
can
do.
tell.
We have our run for Lighthouse in May, and that's our biggest event, and that's huge. We had 1,100 participants last year,
Mhm.
and yeah, we'll be doing that again. Be great.
Cool. Very cool. I appreciate all your time. I'm very, excited to see what the show holds in the next couple weeks when we get there. Happy to facilitate as we've done and get the message out. And I appreciate everybody. Karen, do you have any last thoughts? Because you've kind of been sitting in the. I muted you because you were giving a lot of feedback from your computer for some reason. So
Oh,
I
is there
apologize.
feedback from my computer? I'm
A
sorry.
little bit, yeah.
Okay, so welcome and thank you for coming on. It's absolutely fabulous that you have, and we're indirectly supporting you, Anne, and I love that. And Justin has come into my team talking about it constantly in regard to supporting the Lighthouse, and so I am very, very happy because I don't know if you know, I did support it at one point in time a few years ago. And then I stopped for some reason. We're not sure why, but we're back
Well,
into
thank
it.
you.
So so
Agree.
so that's great. And JJ, it's a pleasure to meet you. A pleasure because
Um,
I've heard nothing but good things about
oh,
you
it's nice
and
to
your
meet you as well.
and your dance studio and everything. And so you better get my granddaughter up and at 'em
I'm
and
doing it.
into
She's working her
interprofessional
tail
dance.
off, I promise.
Anyway,
Oh,
but thank you both of you for coming on the Q&A. It's just a pleasure.
thank you.
You
And
know, I'll
thanks for
say
this opportunity. We
I'll
really
say one
appreciate it.
last thing. Nothing says that this is sort of destined to have happened more than me and my wife going on a date night out after having been to the Lighthouse a few days or whatever earlier, and going to Toronto on a date night and then standing on a train platform and my wife going, "Oh my God, hey," and grabbing Anne by the shoulder and going, "I know you." And Anne was like, "Oh my God, who are you and this crazy person at midnight on because we were on our way home."
We had just gone to see, we all had gone to see Blue
Blue
Rodeo.
Rodeo. Yeah. And on the way back, it was a really
It's
funny
great.
moment because we scared the crap out of Anne. And but it kind of it was a weird sort of, those sliding doors moments where it was like somehow Anne was meant to be in our world and JJ and all these things have come together perfectly. So it's a funny little story to end it, but thank you guys for coming on. We very much appreciate you. And
Thanks
we'll
so
see
Yeah,
what
much.
happens next week. I'm
been
excited.
great. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
super.
Bye
Thank
Thank you
bye.
you.
so much. Really appreciate it.